Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, what's up with it, family? It's your boy Hot Boxing Minute back at you with that uncut realness. Before we begin anything, hit that like button. Leave a comment if you want to. I hope you're already pressing follow. You know how this YouTube algorithm nonsense works. Anyways, Hot Boxing Minute, that's me, your favorite pharmaceutical engineer turned boxing analyst, back at you with that uncut realness as only I can deliver it to you. Got my cool little shirt on. Check out what it says. Warning, may start talking about boxing. And we got something we got to talk about. Folks. A bombshell announcement in the boxing world. Terence "Bud" Crawford is no longer the undisputed champion of the welterweight division. I know. It caught a lot of boos and flags from other people. People were very upset about the decision or about the resolution. This was because of the IBF. The IBF stripped Terence "Bud" Crawford of his strap, and they elevated Jaron "Boots" Ennis of Philadelphia.
Man, this is some bullshit!
I'm not temperamental about it, but it seems a lot of people in the boxing world are. Oh, by the way, shout out to my guy Boog of L-Dub Boxing. He's got a YouTube channel, arguably one of the smartest and brightest boxing analysts in the Twitter boxing news media space. He was the one that noticed it on the IBF sanctioning body's latest update. The IBF sanctioning body list that shows the champions and the top ranking contenders. He was the first one to notice it earlier this morning that Terence Crawford was no longer listed as champion, that your guy Jaron "Boots" Ennis was listed as champion. He started it, and of course, Mike Benson, the big Twitter news guy, broke the story without giving my guy Boog credit. Shout out to my man Boog. Boog, round of applause for great boxing media journalism. Drink. So, we can't be out here. Listen, when it comes to boxing media, there really isn't a lot of money in this unless you're at the top of the food chain, like the pioneers of it, or guys like Mike Coppinger, Michael Benson. And a lot of times, sometimes they'll take stories that don't belong to them, or even if they do take the story, which we all take each other's stories, at least give credit where it's due, because no one likes a story or a style thief.
I don't like that shit.
For sure, bro.
I don't like that shit.
No, Sirski. And here on Hot Boxing Minute, we do our due diligence when we can and give credit to where the stories do. So, yeah, like I was saying to and alluding to earlier, Terence "Bud" Crawford is no longer the undisputed welterweight world champion. He only has 3 belts. It's kind of an unfair ruling, I think, for some people. I'm indifferent to it, but I guess it is a little bit sudden. Listen, when you think about the IBF and its ruling, when Errol Spence, the last time he was forced to fight a mandatory by the IBF sanctioning body was Carlos Ocampo in June of 2018. That was 5 years ago. So he went all those years without having a mandatory defense for the IBF sanctioning body, even though he held on to that belt, and it was the belt he got off of Kell Brook when he broke his other eye socket, the one Gennady Golovkin broke first. And it's a little bit strange if you really think about it. The IBF stripped Terence "Bud" Crawford of his strap about 100 days after he beat Errol Spence. Some of you might remember when Joe Cordina beat Kenichi Ogawa shortly afterwards, after winning the IBF super featherweight strap in that vicious one-punch knockout of Ogawa. Joe Cordina injured, I think it was his hand or his elbow or something to that effect, and it was something like 100 days after beating Ogawa. The IBF immediately stripped him too. He had to fight Shavkat Rakhimov to get first crack again and pick up the vacant strap that was left by him, which he ended up recouping and successfully defending it this past weekend against Edward Vasquez out in Monaco. But that's besides the point. The point is, the IBF stripped Terence Crawford barely 100 days after he got it off Errol Spence, and it is what it is. I don't have the power to change what the sanctioning body decides to do about that kind of stuff. But people in the boxing world are upset. Now, make no mistake about it, folks. Interims being elevated to full champion status is not a brand new concept. So people are out here screaming bloody murder or robbery. You guys are out of line. You can't be doing that. Don't do that. We got to be thinking boxing fans. And we got to make sure that, like, we really pay attention to what's going on instead of jumping to conclusions. And a lot of people are accusing, or they're saying, oh, Devin Haney. Now we got Jaron Boots Ennis is the email champion. For those of you who don't remember, Tim Tszyu essentially became a champion the day that Jermell Charlo stepped in the ring with Canelo Alvarez. So it just recently happened, and I believe that was the WBA belt. Don't quote me on that right now. I could be wrong. Or was it the WBO? One of those belts. Either way, they elevated Tim Tszyu the day Jermell Charlo stepped in the ring with Canelo Alvarez. So this is not a brand new occurrence. We have a couple of examples. Back in October of 2019, some of you might remember when Devin the Dream Haney got elevated to full WBC champion status when Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC decided at a very strange timing to elevate Vasyl Lomachenko to franchise champion status. And I still don't really understand what that whole scenario was about. It's mad strange. To this day, I'm confused about that franchise champion designation.
To this day. To this day. To this day.
Oh, no. And Devin Haney, it goes further back than that. In 2017, Dimitri Bivol was elevated to full WBA light heavyweight champion status when Badou Jack vacated his belt. Further back than that, in 2016, Gennady Golovkin was elevated to full WBC champion status when the face of boxing Canelo Alvarez left the middleweight division. Gennady Golovkin, that wasn't his first time receiving a elevated email championship belt. It also happened to him in 2012 after many years of being ducked by, who was that German guy? Felix Sturm. Gennady Golovkin ended up having to defend his interim and his Reggie Belt WBA championship status for years. Finally, Daniel Gill decided he wanted to rematch Anthony Mundine instead of fighting Gennady Golovkin and giving him a fair shake. So Daniel Gill was stripped of the WBA belt, and they ended up elevating Gennady Golovkin. This is back in 2012, folks. It is not a brand new concept. So although you want to scream that you're upset about it and get mad, this is not new to boxing, and you can get mad about it. And hell, I'll get mad with you. Ooh, this sucks.
Man, this is some bullshit.
So, hats off to Jaron Boots Ennis. Jaron Boots Ennis, goodness, he could have been the number one contender in the WBO sanctioning body system. He was there for like a little over a year from November 21st to December 22nd, and that would have put him next in line to fight Terence Bud Crawford. But actually, he was under Virgil Ortiz, and then there was Jaron Ennis. He was number 3. And instead, he got out of the WBO sanctioning body system and went over to the IBF. And the instant he went over to the IBF, that was when he petitioned the IBF for that mandatory shot. Right? That was at the time when Errol Spence was still the champion. So don't lose sight of the timeline of what's going on. So, yeah, in the WBO sanctioning body system, your guy, Jaron Boots Ennis, was ranked number 3 behind Virgil Ortiz. And the number 1 guy, of course, who had the WBO belt for all those years was Terence Bud Crawford. He was there for a little over a year. Terence Bud Crawford offered him the fight on the BLK Prime platform and all that good stuff. Jaron Ennis and even his dad, Bozy Ennis, admitted in an interview they turned down that offer. Then Jaron Ennis moved over to the IBF sanctioning body system and immediately petitioned to enforce his position as the top contender in the IBF sanctioning body system. But that was when the fight had got agreed to between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Bud Crawford. Errol got smoked and now fight Terence Bud Crawford as the IBF champion. And now the IBF has stripped Terence Bud Crawford and given it to Jaron Boots Ennis. Regardless, hats off to Jaron Boots Ennis. That's one of the most gifted dudes, if not the most talented dude in the welterweight division. So hopefully this frees up the logjam that was the welterweight, not W-E-I-G-H-T, welter, W-A-I-T. It was called the welterweight division because it was all logjam. The entire division was all held up on waiting for Terence Crawford and Errol Spence to figure out what they were doing with the undisputed fight. Drink, hold on. So this frees up a whole bunch of stuff in that sanctioning body ranking system. You had all these guys at the top. You had Cody Crowley. You had Imantai Stanionis. You had Virgil Ortiz Jr. You had, your guy Boots Ennis. Now the things are a little bit different. Mario Barrios just won the interim WBC strap. You got Imantaia Stanionis, who's got the WBA. I believe it's kind of like an interim kind of situation too going on over there. And then you've got the WBO. You've got my guy from San Diego, Giovanni Santillano, who's the #1 ranked contender in the WBO sanctioning system. So a bunch of cool stuff could go down. I don't know what's going on with Terence Crawford, y'all. Terence Crawford could potentially move up to 154 pounds and face, I don't know, maybe a Tim Tszyu in a big money fight in Australia. I don't foresee Terence Bud Crawford defending those other 3 belts or going at it with the other welterweights. I think Terence Bud Crawford is in this for the legacy. Terence Crawford wants to win a belt in another division, if not full on become undisputed in at least a 3rd division. He said before he's down to fight Canelo for all the belts at 168. He said he was interested in a fight with Jermell Charlo when Jermell Charlo was the undisputed, but Jermell Charlo, as alluded to earlier, is no longer undisputed because he had to vacate a belt when he took on that fight with Canelo. This is the interesting chess game that occurs in the sport of boxing. It upsets casual boxing fans when they don't understand why the sanctioning body moves are made the way they are. Most of the moves are understandable. Sometimes the moves aren't. Sometimes the moves aren't. They've got the different nicknames for the, the sanctioning body rules, whatever Bob orders, what benefits Al. I'm not here to argue here or there. WBC, anything Mexico goes. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Welcome to the funky, weird, spiderweb, messed up world of boxing. It's the wild, wild west, y'all. It's the wild, wild west, and I love this sport and wouldn't have it any other way. So let's celebrate one time for your guy. He done did the damn thing. And shout out to Jaron Boots Ennis, the new IBF World Welterweight Champion.
I just want to celebrate.
All right. I just wanted to make sure and cover a bit of ground on that subject. I know I spoke real fast. Hopefully I didn't lose y'all in covering all the ground. I think I addressed as many of the angles as I see this whole thing with Terence Crawford. Anyways, Jaron Ennis, hats off to the new champion. Hit that like button, leave a comment or a suggestion in the box below. I hope you are already pressing follow. You know what time it is, y'all. This is Hot Boxing Minute, the future of boxing analysis on YouTube and TikTok. Till next time, peace.